The call comes at 2:13 a.m. You don't answer. You already know not to answer unknown numbers. But the voicemail they leave is 3 seconds of silence, and somehow that's worse than a threat. You sit at the edge of your bed in a motel room that costs $49 a night, and you stare at the water stain on the ceiling, and you understand, maybe for the first time, that you have crossed into something you cannot cross back out of. This is where it begins. Not with a bang, not with a speech, with silence, and a number you'll never call back. Level 1, the ghost nobody's looking for yet. You're not on any list. That's the point. You move through the world like everyone else. Gas stations, diners, rest stops. You pay cash because you've learned that cards leave trails, and trails lead to conversations you don't want to have. The crime that brought you here wasn't planned the way movies plan crimes. It happened the way most things happen. Incrementally, then all at once. A decision layered on top of a smaller decision layered on top of a moment where you told yourself it would be fine. It wasn't fine. Now you're somewhere in the middle of a state you didn't grow up in and nobody knows your face yet. That's your only asset. Anonymity. You protect it like a wounded animal protects its leg. You sleep in shifts. You eat alone. You don't make eye contact at the counter, but you also don't avoid it so hard that it becomes its own red flag. There's an art to invisibility, and in these first weeks, you're learning it by instinct. Every mistake is a tuition payment. You can't afford many of them. The FBI isn't thinking about you. You're a case number in a field office. Someone's low priority Monday morning. That should make you feel safe. It doesn't. Because you know what you did, and you know what you're capable of, and the person who scares you most right now is yourself. You keep moving. That's the only rule at this level. Keep moving. Don't stop long enough to become a pattern. Level 2. The name they're starting to learn. 6 months in and something shifts. Your face appears on a screen for the first time. Not national, not splashed across anything most people would see. A local tip line, a grainy still from a parking lot camera, a description that fits about 10,000 other people. But it's there. You find out from someone who tells you in a bathroom at a truck. Stop outside of Memphis. He hands you a folded piece of paper like it's 1987, and you look at the image and it takes you a second to recognize yourself in it. The lighting is bad. The angle is worse. You tell yourself it's nothing. You almost believe it. Here's what. Changes at level 2. You start acquiring infrastructure. A second name. A thin one. A name you got off a document you shouldn't have. Attached to a social security number belonging to a man who died in 1994 in a county that doesn't digitize its records well. It won't hold up to serious scrutiny, but serious scrutiny takes resources. And those resources have to be pointed at you first. You find people who know people. Everyone in this ecosystem has a version of that sentence. The first layer of real connection happens here. Not friends, not allies exactly, but nodes. A woman who rents rooms without asking. A man who sells plates without keeping notes. A mechanic who understands that some repairs require discretion. You tell yourself these are temporary arrangements. You're passing through. This is survival, not a lifestyle. You're already wrong about that. The psychological shift at level 2 is subtle but permanent. You stop thinking about going back. Not because you don't want to, because you've done the math. The math doesn't work. So you put the idea of before in a room in your head and you close the door and you don't open it again. You're not running from something anymore. You're running towards something. You just don't know what yet. Level 3. The first photo that actually looks like you. The FBI gets a better photo. It comes from someone you thought you could trust, which is a lesson you will spend the rest of your life learning in different ways. You don't know it's happened yet. You find out when a convenience store clerk looks at you for 3 seconds too long, and then looks at the bulletin, bored behind the register, and then looks back. You're out the door before she finishes the thought. You drive 4 hours without stopping. You change vehicles a lot outside Knoxville using a method that isn't clean but works. You don't eat for 18 hours because eating means stopping means exposure. This is where the body starts keeping score. At level 3, you are actively hunted for the first time. Not intensively. You're still competing with a list of people who've done worse things, more visible things. But there's a task force file with your name on it now. There are analysts who know your patterns better than you think they do. They've mapped your movement. They've identified your operational zone. They're narrowing. You respond by going deeper into the network. This is the pivot point. The moment you stop relying on your own instincts alone and start relying on the system around you, people who've survived this before. Protocols that exist because someone else already made the mistake that would kill you. You meet your first real fixer. He's 53 years old, and he's been doing this for 22 years without a single documented arrest. He doesn't tell you his name, and you don't ask. What he gives you is a new phone, a new route, and one piece of advice. The people who get caught are the people who think they're special. You're not special. Act accordingly. You're not offended. You know he's right. The internal shift at level 3 is this. You stop experiencing fear as panic and start experiencing it as information. Your nervous system recalibrates. Adrenaline becomes data. This is useful. It is also, in ways you won't understand for years, a form of damage. Level 4. The operator. You clear $40,000 in a week, and none of it touches your name. Something you're doing, something specific to your particular set of skills and nerve, has value in this ecosystem. You discover this not by advertising but by being observed. The network sees what you can do before you understand it yourself. At level 4, you stop being just a fugitive and become a functioning entity within a shadow economy. You're useful. Useful means protected, to a point. Useful means resources. Useful means you're no longer sleeping in $49 motels. You have a place now. Not a home, nothing you'd call that, but a location, a consistent location. People know how to reach you through the correct channels. You have a phone that changes numbers every 14 days. You have someone who handles logistics. You have a name that the right people in the wrong world say with a particular kind of acknowledgement. The FBI upgrades your status. You're in the top 40% of the list now. You have a dedicated case agent. His name is in documents you'll never see, though you'll know of him eventually through sources that shouldn't exist. The moral landscape at level 4 looks different than it did at level 1. Not because the moral facts have changed, because you've stopped letting them interfere with decisions. You've developed a vocabulary of rationalization so fluent that you no longer experience it as rationalization. It just sounds like logic. You tell yourself the people you've hurt made choices. You tell yourself the system you're operating in would exist whether you participated or not. You tell yourself that everyone is working an angle, that the difference between you and a hedge fund manager is just which laws you've chosen to ignore. You believe all of it. That's the most dangerous thing about level 4. You are competent, confidence, functioning, and you have almost completely forgotten who you were before the motel room, before the 2:13 a.m. call, before any of this, almost. Level 5. The wanted man. Everyone's heard of. Your name moves. Not in the news, not yet, but in the rooms where things get decided. Law enforcement briefings, intelligence shares between field offices, conversations that happen at levels. Above the case agent who's been tracking you, you make the top 15. There's a photograph on the FBI website now that looks genuinely like you. Your real name is there, your known aliases, a physical description that captures you well enough that you've started wearing a beard and 40 pounds heavier and different colored contacts, not because any single thing disguises you, but because disrupting the composite matters. You are, for the first time, nationally relevant. The weight of this is strange. You have not done the things that make someone a monster in the public imagination. At least you tell yourself that. But the list doesn't grade on those curves. The list is about priority, resource allocation, political visibility. Someone in Washington decided you belong in this tier, and that decision has consequences you feel in every interaction. Your network tightens. People who were willing to work with a mid-level operator become more cautious about working with a name. Risk is contagious. You learn who your real relationships are because the others evaporate. The people who stay are either loyal or they need you badly enough that the risk calculates out. You learn to tell the difference. The psychological texture of level 5 is loneliness with the volume turned down. You don't experience it as loneliness because you've got people around you, movement, purpose, the operational hum of survival. But the connections are load-bearing, transactional. You can't let anyone close enough to be a liability, which means no one is close. You understand this as math. The math is correct. The math costs you something you can no longer name. Level 6. The authority. You don't do anything yourself anymore. That's how you know you've arrived at level 6. There are people who handle the parts that carry exposure. You think. You decide. You communicate in ways that are 3 degrees removed from any action. You have insulated yourself so thoroughly that a federal prosecutor would need 9 months of wiretaps just to place you in the same conceptual space as the things being done on your behalf. Others answer to you. Not many, 5 people, maybe 6, but they answer and they move, and the ripple effect of that is significant. You are in the top 5. Your face appears on the evening news for the first time when a reporter connects 2 events that shouldn't be connected and gets enough of it right to be dangerous. You watch it on a screen and feel something you don't recognize at first. It takes you a moment to identify it as pride, then it takes you another moment to feel sick about that. You push both feelings down. Feelings are a resource leak. The FBI shifts tactics. Passive surveillance wasn't working. They begin an active infiltration attempt. You know this because the person they send is too eager and asks the wrong questions in the wrong sequence. You don't do anything dramatic about it. Dramatic draws attention. You simply close a door, root around, let the connection wither without incident. You are now better at this than most people who have spent careers trying to catch people like you. The irony of level 6 is that you have built something real, functional, durable. It has rules and hierarchies and processes that work. If this same set of organizational skills were applied elsewhere, if some version of you had turned left instead of right, the structure you'd built would be called a company. You understand this. You don't find it funny. Identity at level 6 is a performance even to yourself. There are moments, rare ones, usually at 4 a.m., or when you catch your reflection somewhere unexpected, where you look for the person who was sitting in that motel room, the one who was scared, the one who still had a before. You find him sometimes. He's very far away. Level 7, the legend before the fall. Number 2, the agents who've spent 3 years on your case have a wall. You've seen a photograph of it, obtained through means that confirm how far your network reaches. The wall is thorough. There are lines connecting you to things you actually did, and to things you didn't do, and to things you're not sure about. You are both accurately and mythologically represented on that wall, which is the nature of what you've become. Legends are part invention. You've stopped trying to separate the real from the constructed. At level 7, the resources deployed against you are substantial. 3 task forces, multi-agency coordination, international components. The numbers don't flatter you, they define, you by them. A country deciding that you represent a problem worth this level of solving says something about how large you have become. You do not feel large. You feel very still. You've been still for a while now. The operation's slow at level 7, not because you become cautious, but because caution has become the operation. Every decision is filtered through 12 questions about exposure. The leverage you carry is enormous. The freedom that leverage buys is very small. You exist in a narrow corridor between visibility and erasure. Your inner circle is 3 people. You trust all of them with your life because you have no other option. Trust at this level isn't sentiment. It's architecture. You have money you cannot spend, property you cannot visit, relationships you cannot acknowledge. You have built an empire with a population of 1. The psychological condition at level 7 is a strange clarity. The noise of ambition and fear that defined the earlier levels is gone. There is no fantasy of what comes next. You see the shape of things very plainly. You've seen where this ends for enough other people to understand the arithmetic. You have made peace with it, or you have made something that functions like peace, which is close enough. Level 8, number 1. There is no ceremony. One morning, a case file is updated, a ranking is changed, and you become the most wanted person in the country. You don't know the exact moment it happens. You find out through a chain of communication so indirect it takes 4 days to reach you. You are number 1. The pursuit at this level is not tactical. It is existential on their side. You represent something that cannot be allowed to continue. Existing freely, not just a crime, not just a fugitive, but a symbol of the system's limitation. They need to close you. This is political. This is institutional. The full weight of what a government can bring to bear on a single human life is oriented in your direction, and you are quieter than you have ever been. Level 8 feels nothing like what you imagined it would feel when you were lying on the floor of a $49 motel room, young enough and scared enough to still be capable of imagining anything. There's no throne, no view, no moment where the world acknowledges that you won. There's a room, a smaller circle than ever before, a window you don't stand near. You think about things you haven't thought about in years. A meal, a real one, eaten, at a table you belong at. A name spoken in a voice that remembers you from before all of this. What any of that would feel like now, whether you'd recognize it. You don't spend long there. Those thoughts are exits, and exits are dangerous. The power you hold is real but abstract. Leverage, information, reach, and the cost of holding it is everything tactile, everything warm, everything human beings are actually built to need. You made 1,000 trades to get here, each one feeling reasonable at the time, and the sum of those trades is this room, this window you don't stand near, this silence. This is what the top of the list feels like, not victory, not defeat, something beyond either. A condition, you live in it the way something lives at the bottom of the ocean, adapted completely and completely alone. You have no regrets in any form you're capable of accessing anymore. That's not peace. That's just what happens when you've been this for long enough. The before person, the one in the motel room, he had regrets. You are not him. You are what happened after him. The FBI will close this file. Eventually. They always do. You know this the way you know everything at level 8. Plainly, without feeling, as a fact that simply is. Somewhere a man is sitting in a $49 motel room. It's 2:13 a.m. He got a call he didn't answer. He's staring at the ceiling. He's telling himself this is temporary. He's telling himself he knows what he's doing. He's telling himself the situation is manageable and the risk is contained and the worst is already behind him. He thinks he understands what he's gotten into. He doesn't, but he will.